I had been saving for 3 years when my son told me I wouldn't be joining them. The message came in at 11:02 p.m. I remember the time because the microwave clock blinked the same number back at me, and for a moment I thought it was broken, stuck on a loop, unable to move forward. My phone buzzed once on the kitchen table, soft but sharp in the silence like a tap on glass. "You won't be joining us. My wife prefers to keep the vacation just her family. You've already done your part by paying." I read it once. Then again. Then I set the phone down face up and waited for another message. The kind that follows a mistake, a correction, a laugh emoji. Something that says I didn't mean it like that. Nothing came. The refrigerator hummed behind me. The house smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and sunscreen. I was sitting at the dining table with my reading glasses sliding down my nose, surrounded by little zippered bags I had labeled in careful black marker. Olivia Mason, Leo. Each one filled with travel-size shampoo, tiny packets of aloe, band-aids with cartoon animals. I had just tied the last ribbon on the souvenir bags, each with a plastic keychain that read Aloha and Grandma loves you. My fingers were still sticky from tape. I picked up the phone again. My thumb hovered over his name, Nathan, my son. The boy who used to sleep with his head against my shoulder during thunderstorms. The boy who once cried because he thought I'd disappear if he fell asleep first. The screen stayed dark. Another buzz finally came, and my heart lifted before I even read it. "Don't take it the wrong way, Mom. It's not personal. It's just simpler this way." Simpler. I turned the phone face down and didn't touch it again. I sat there for a long time, listening to the clock tick, the seconds dropping one by one like water from a leaky faucet. I didn't cry, I didn't feel angry. What settled in first was something heavier, quieter shame. The kind that makes you feel foolish for hoping at all. I looked at the small duffel bag by the door. Inside were 2 sundresses I hadn't worn in years, folded carefully like they mattered. A framed photo of James, my husband, wrapped in a towel so the glass wouldn't crack. A lavender candle, his favorite scent. Matches tucked into the side pocket. I had imagined placing his photo on the dinner table the first night. Imagined us barefoot on the sand at sunset. The children asking about their grandfather, my grandson's small hand slipping into mine as the waves came in. Did Grandpa love the beach too? I would have said he loved it enough to bring me here before we could afford it. Loved it because he shared it with me. But now I wasn't going. Because apparently, I wasn't family. I had paid for everything. The beachfront villa. The flights. The airport plans, the airport tickets, snorkeling lessons. Breakfast baskets delivered each morning. I had spent hours on the phone with a travel agent making sure the beds were soft enough for the kids, and the walkways flat enough for Tanya's mother's bad knee. And still, I was erased. I didn't call Nathan. I didn't beg. I didn't ask what I had done wrong. I had given too much of my life to pleading quietly to start now. Instead, I walked to the den and turned on my old laptop. It whirred awake slowly, like an old friend stretching its joints. I clicked open the folder labeled Hawaii Travel Fund. The number stared back at me. The 21,763,84. 3 years of saving, skipping old furniture, tutoring English online at night when my eyes burned and my hands ached. Turning the heat down and wearing double socks. Declining invitations, telling people I was on a tight budget. They didn't know I was building a memory. I hovered over the account controls, the cursor blinking patiently over the option that said freeze account. I didn't click it yet. Instead, I opened a blank document and started typing a list. Carol, Louise, Francis, Beverly, women I knew, women who had given everything and been thanked with silence, women who hadn't seen the ocean. Women whose stories were never asked for. I saved the file, then I went back. Freeze account. Are you sure you want to pause all linked transactions? Yes, all linked cards will be disabled immediately. Yes, the screen confirmed it. Simple. Final. I closed the laptop and sat back, my hands trembling just slightly. Not from fear. That night I unpacked the duffel bag, I placed James's photo on the kitchen table, and lit the lavender candle. The flame flickered softly, steady and warm like he used to be. I wasn't unwanted. I was done being used. And for the first time in 3 years I imagined a different trip. One where I was not a burden, not a wallet, not an afterthought, but a host. I woke before dawn the next morning, not because I had anywhere to go, but because sleep had grown thin and fragile. The sky outside my bedroom window was a pale gray. The kind that makes everything look unfinished. I lay there listening to the quiet, remembering the sound of Nathan laughing when he was little. The way he used to call for me from the hallway if he woke up scared. "Mom, are you there?" I used to answer every time. I got up slowly, wrapped a sweater around my shoulders, and walked into the kitchen. The candle from the night before had burned low, leaving a small pool of lavender wax beside James's photo. I touched the frame with my fingertips. "You would have told me to stand up for myself," I whispered. "You always did." The coffee maker gurgled to life. I watched the steam curl upward and felt something inside me shift. Not anger, not grief, just a quiet decision settling into place. My phone stayed silent until mid-morning. When it finally buzzed, it was Nathan. "Hey, quick question. Did anything change with the travel account? Tanya says the confirmation mails look weird." I stared at the message for a long time, before setting the phone back down. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to speak yet. Words felt heavy, too fragile to carry might I knew. Instead I opened my notebook and added more names to the list. Lucille, who lived 2 streets over and had never flown in her life. Nora, who told me once that the ocean made her feel like she could breathe again. Denise, who laughed too loudly at church, because no one listened when she spoke softly. I dialed Carol first. My hands trembled as the phone rang. "Marilyn." She answered, surprised. "Is everything okay? I have a question," I said gently. "How would you feel about going to Hawaii?" There was a long silence. Then a soft laugh. "Oh honey, I think you called the wrong person." "No," I said. "I called exactly the right one." By the time I hung up, she was crying quietly. The kind of cry that comes when someone hands you something you stopped believing you deserved. I made 5 more calls that afternoon. Each one began with disbelief. Each one ended with a long pause and a whispered yes. The house felt different after that lighter. As if the walls themselves had exhaled. That evening, Nathan called again. I watched the screen light up and fade, until it finally stopped. A few minutes later, a message came through. "Mom, please. They're saying the card isn't working for the final charges. Just check it when you can." I set the phone aside and opened my laptop again. Not to unfreeze anything, but to finalize new bookings. The travel agent's voice sounded warm and surprised when she recognized me. "Marilyn, are we all set for the family trip?" "We're making a small change," I said. I gave her the new list of names. I asked for separate beds and a large dining table. I asked for nothing extravagant, just comfort, just space. When the confirmation emails arrived under my own name, I felt something settle deep in my chest. Not victory, not revenge, ownership. The day they were scheduled to leave came faster than I expected. I woke early and made myself toast I barely tasted. Outside, birds hopped across the lawn, pecking at invisible things. My phone buzzed at 8:17 a.m. "Mom, they're saying the payment declined." Another message followed almost immediately. "Can you call me? We're at the airport." I watched the words appear one by one. I imagined them standing at the counter, luggage stacked high, the children restless, Tanya tapping her nails against her phone. I didn't reply. Minutes passed. Calls came back to back, filling the screen with missed notifications. "Mom, please. Something's wrong. We can't check in." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. My hands were steady now. I picked up my mug and walked to the window. The sunlight had finally broken through the clouds, spilling gold across the yard. For a moment, I pictured Nathan at 10 years old, running through that same grass with a paper kite, shouting for me to watch. I had always watched. Another voicemail came in. His voice sounded tight, strained. "I don't know what happened, Mom. If this is because of the text, we can talk. Just call me." I pressed the phone face down and went back to my laptop. A new email sat in my inbox. "Booking cancellation confirmed." I read it slowly, reversed. Every reservation released. I didn't feel relief right away. Just a quiet stillness, like the moment after a storm when you realize the roof is still standing. Around noon, I went for a walk. The air smelled like fresh grass and distant rain. A neighbor waved and asked if I was excited for my big trip. "I am," I said honestly. Because I was. 2 days later, I stood at the airport with 6 women who looked as nervous and hopeful as I felt. Carol clutched her boarding pass like it might disappear. Lucille kept whispering, "I can't believe this is real." "It is," I told her, smiling. The plane ride felt longer than I remembered. But when the doors finally opened and warm ocean air brushed my face, I felt something loosen inside me. The villa sat high above the water, surrounded by swaying palms. The sound of waves filled every corner of the place. We walked through the front door together, laughter echoing off the walls. That first night, I set James's photo at the center of the dining table. No one questioned it. Carol lit a candle beside it, her hand steady. "To the people who brought us here," she said softly. We ate slowly, passing dishes back and forth, telling stories that had waited years to be heard. No one talked over anyone else. No one checked their phone. I watched their faces glow in the candlelight and felt something shift inside me, something gentle and warm. This wasn't the family I had imagined. But it was real. The days passed like a soft tide. We walked the beach at sunrise, collected shells, took photos where everyone stood in the middle instead of at the edge. Frances cried when she saw the ocean for the first time. Denise danced barefoot on the sand, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. One evening, we gathered around the fire pit. The sky turned violet, and the air smelled of salt and smoke. "I used to think getting older meant disappearing," Nora said quietly. "But tonight, I feel seen." Her words settled over us like a blanket. I looked at James's photo glowing in the firelight and felt tears sting my eyes, not from sadness, but from something softer: gratitude. On the last night, we stood together at the shoreline, waves curling around our ankles. Each woman held a small shell or ribbon, something they wanted to let go of. I held the lavender candle. "I thought this trip was for my family," I said softly. "But maybe it was always meant for this." I lit the candle and watched the flame steady against the breeze. For the first time in years, my heart felt quiet, not empty, free, and somewhere far away. In a world that no longer felt like mine to carry, my phone stayed silent, resting at the bottom of my suitcase, unanswered and unneeded. The morning after we returned home felt strangely still. The ocean was gone, replaced by the soft hum of my refrigerator, and the faint ticking of the kitchen clock. For a moment, I stood in the doorway with my suitcase still half unpacked, sand clinging to the seams like a memory refusing to leave. I expected the quiet to feel lonely again, the way it had before everything changed. But it didn't. It felt earned. I brewed tea and opened the windows. The wind chime James had given me years ago stirred gently, filling the room with a sound that felt like approval. I set his photo back on the shelf where it had always belonged. The walnut frame caught the morning light, warm and steady. My phone buzzed around noon. "Nathan." I stared at the screen, letting it ring once, twice, 3 times before it went to voicemail. A message appeared seconds later. "Mom, can you call me? Please." I read it, then set the phone down again. I wasn't avoiding him. I just didn't feel the urgency anymore. That need to rush toward every call. Every problem, every request had faded somewhere between the waves and the candles, and the quiet laughter of women who had nothing to take from me. Later that afternoon, I sat at my desk and began sorting through photos from the trip. Carol smiling with a flower behind her ear. Denise standing knee-deep in the water, arms wide as if embracing the sky. Lucille holding a seashell to her heart like it was a secret. And one photo of me. I almost didn't recognize the woman in it. She stood barefoot on the sand, hair pulled back by the wind, eyes soft and unguarded. Not bracing for disappointment. Not shrinking to make space for someone else's comfort. Just present. Another message came through. "Mom, we need to talk. The credit cards are a mess. Can you at least explain what happened?" I typed a response, then erased it. Typed again, erased again. Words felt too small to carry everything that had changed. Instead, I closed the laptop and went outside. The air smelled faintly of jasmine. A neighbor's dog barked in the distance. I sat on the porch steps and let the sun warm my shoulders. I thought about Nathan as a boy. The way he used to run to me after school with stories that tumbled over each other, desperate to be heard. I remembered holding him when he cried over scraped knees, staying up late to help with homework, packing lunches with notes tucked inside. Love doesn't disappear just because it's wounded. But it does change shape. That evening, I finally answered when he called. His voice sounded tired. "Mom, are you mad at me?" I paused, searching for the truth inside myself. "No," I said softly. "I'm not mad." There was a long silence. "Then why did you do it?" I could hear Tanya talking faintly in the background, the murmur of a television, the clatter of dishes. It felt like listening to a life that no longer included me. "I didn't do anything to you," I said gently. "I just stopped doing something for you." He exhaled sharply. We were embarrassed, Mom. The kids were confused. We had to scramble to fix everything. I know, I said. You could have warned us. I closed my eyes. You could have invited me. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument. I didn't think you'd react like that, he admitted quietly. I didn't think you'd treat me like I wasn't family, I replied. His voice softened. Tanya just wanted to feel like her side, you know. Less complicated. I understand, I said. And I did. Understanding didn't erase the hurt, but it kept bitterness from taking root. He hesitated. Are you going to help us fix the debt? There it was. Not cruel, not demanding, just familiar. The old rhythm of need and expectation. I breathed in slowly before answering. No, Nathan. He didn't speak right away. When he finally did, his voice sounded small. So that's it. That's not it. I still love you. I always will. But love doesn't mean I pay for choices that push me away. Another long silence. I didn't realize how much it hurt you, he said quietly. I know, I whispered. That's part of the problem. We didn't argue. We didn't fix everything. We just sat in the quiet space between who we used to be and who we were becoming. After we hung up, I felt lighter, as if a door had closed without slamming. I wasn't waiting for him to understand perfectly. I wasn't waiting for Tanya to change. I was just done waiting. The weeks that followed were gentle. The women from the trip visited often. We shared tea on the porch, laughed over inside jokes from the beach, planned small dinners where everyone brought something homemade. One afternoon Nora handed me a postcard. It was addressed to me, written in her careful handwriting. Thank you for reminding me that my life isn't over just because people stopped looking. I held the card for a long time, feeling tears prick my eyes. For years, I had believed my role was to give until nothing remained. To be useful. To be quiet. To accept whatever scraps of affection came my way. Now I understood something different. Love is not measured by sacrifice alone. It's measured by presence, by a simple act of being chosen without conditions. A month later, Nathan visited alone. He stood at my door looking uncertain, hands tucked into his pockets like he did when he was a teenager caught between pride and apology. I brought tulips, he said, holding them out awkwardly. Pink, just like he used to. I let him in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place where everything had begun. He looked around the room, noticing small changes, the photos from Hawaii on the wall, the laughter lines etched deeper around my eyes. You look different, he said quietly. I feel different, I replied. He nodded slowly. The kids miss you. I miss them too. He swallowed hard. I'm sorry I made you feel replaceable. The word hung in the air, fragile and heavy. Thank you, I said softly. We didn't fix the past that day. But we shared tea, and he told me stories about work, about the kids' school projects, about small ordinary things that felt like bridges rebuilding themselves one plank at a time. When he left, he hugged me longer than usual. I'll do better, he whispered. I hope so, I said, meaning it without needing to believe it fully yet. After he drove away, I stood on the porch watching the road until his car disappeared. The evening light stretched across the yard, warm and forgiving. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt steady. The dream I had saved for 3 years hadn't vanished. It had simply changed shape, turning into something wider, kinder, more honest. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for someone else to decide whether I belonged. I already knew I did.